Good morning and welcome. This is Brenda Meller and delighted to see all of you here online with us today, whether you're watching live or listening to this in playback or maybe listening to this on the podcast eventually. I'm delighted to have with me here Michelle B. Griffin. Hey, Michelle, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Brenda. How are you today?
I am good. I got a little message from StreamYard as I was pushing the broadcast live saying Facebook didn't pick up. I think somebody dropped the baton in between Facebook and StreamYard. I don't get a ton of traffic from Facebook anyway, so I think we're just going to keep on going, and later on I'll repost it to Facebook. But if you are watching on LinkedIn right now, anybody on our audience is watching live on LinkedIn, I'd love it if you could drop a comment below. Let us know that the live stream did pick up here. It's kind of like, Michelle, like the mic tap. Like, is this thing on? Did the stream come over? Right?
You
So
can
there we
never
go.
tell, but usually your wonderful listeners and viewers, they always tell you where they're calling from or watching from. There you
Right?
go.
Like at
Gary.
live on the radio, like Gary's watching right now. Thank you so much for your comment, Gary, saying this should be interesting. And Monica is at the gym. So Monica's kind of treating this as an alternative to tuning in on the radio as she's getting her workout in.
Hey,
Melody
Monica.
says yes. Others are saying yes. Awesome. So I'm good with the stream going. So, Michelle, there are some folks that are seeing you for the first time today, hearing from you for the first time. I know you. I love you. I love all the things that you represent with your brand. But why don't you take a few moments and tell us a little bit about who you are, what do you do, and who do you help, if you don't mind?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always a treat to share the LinkedIn Live stage with Brenda. So everyone, I am Michelle B. Griffin. The B stands for brand because that's exactly what I do. And I specifically love helping, elevating hidden high achievers. Those are the people I help. Hidden high achievers, right? Who are ready to step out finally and then stand apart and then rise up in their industries, right? For impact and influence. And I do that with books and my podcast, my consulting and workshops that I give to individuals and teams, and also speaking. That's one of the wonderful things I love to do, to spread the message of just helping you put yourself out there to make your unique mark in the world with thought leadership branding and personal branding, because there's so many of us that are just hidden and held back on the sidelines, and we are ready to get out. So I have a 7-step framework that just brings them that clarity and the roadmap to get out there for the goals they are ready to achieve and beyond. So that's what I do in the nutshell. And I call myself the brand therapist because I really do help people get out of their own heads, find their way, and I've been there too. So that is what I do, and I absolutely love what I do, Brenda, because getting people out there is one of my passions and missions in life and work. So glad to be here.
Well, this is going to be such a fun chat today. And by the way, our topic today is how to build a LinkedIn community for your personal brand and business. And I got to say, the community is lit this morning. Michelle, we are having all kinds of folks coming into our comments this morning, which is really great to see. I created this show, a few years back. I've been doing LinkedIn Lives for, but I created the series in 2023, framing it around the topic. I'm calling it Enthusiastically Self-Employed, really helping to focus the topics in on conversation items that will help individuals who are coaches, consultants, speakers, and authors. And I did invite a handful of people to come and join us online. I think you got a great network, and I'm sure you pushed it out as well. So that's why we're seeing such lovely activity in the chat. And I'll encourage people to continue to drop your comments as we get into this conversation. And as we do get into the conversation, I want to just kind of start with, we're talking here about how to build a LinkedIn community. I mean, you and I have a vibrant community, and we became a part of each other's communities. I want to say it was maybe 3 years ago now. Does that sound about right to you, Michelle?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
just about. I remember first meeting you before I met you, and we became, collaborators when you wrote your book, which I have right here next to me. And I ordered it, and you actually signed it and sent it to me. So before I even met you, I bought your book. That's the power of LinkedIn and having a community. So before someone even gets to know you, they are already noticing you. So
Yeah, very true. So there may be people watching that are like, hey, this sounds like a really interesting topic. How to build a LinkedIn community for your personal brand business. I've heard of other people doing that. Like, how do I build mine? So what advice do you have to offer? How do we get started in this process?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I'm a huge believer and advocate for connection and community. And that's what I did in my previous role in B2B professional services, where I was in charge of an entire professional association. We had a community of memberships. We had a big 2,000 person conference every year. And that is essentially what got me just so started on this. So when I started getting on LinkedIn in my consultancy, I knew right away that I know the old acronym of together everyone achieves more is so cliche and cheesy, but it's exactly what it is, because we need power partners. We need others to help bond us and lift us up. But at the same time, when we're together, we search for others who are like-minded or who have the same purpose or premise, so to speak. So that's exactly what you first need to do. Who are you? I mean, we know who you are, but what are you standing for? What problem? What area are you here to address and solve for people? That's the best way to just say it. I'll give you an example. In our lovely audience here, Vicki O'Neill popped up. Okay, she's a wonderful strategist with short form video. She has a community on short form video to really help people do it. I mean, that is as tight and micro niche of a community as you can get. And that's my number one thing. We don't want to start broad. The more narrow we can start, there's Vicky. The more narrow we can start is exactly where we need to start to get the traction. Much as like when we're doing our brand, we need to be as very narrow, because that way people will notice us. It's too hard. It's too hard in today's attention economy to get traction. So I love that you called. We're going to talk about, I think, in the reference of LinkedIn groups community. Is that what I think we're referencing today?
We're going to go wherever we want to go. Like,
Okay,
I mean,
awesome.
the good thing is, like, even when we were like, we did our prep call a few months ago, and we were talking about what do we want to talk about, and we are both like, I mean, let's address the obvious. There might be people going, wait a minute, Brenda is a LinkedIn trainer and coach. Doesn't Michelle do some similar? Like, why would they both be on together? Isn't that like they're competing with each other, and there's only a finite amount of pie, to be had, and we can't get more. And I'm a big believer, like, we get more pie together by working together.
Absolutely. Yes.
So I think we talked about, we left this a bit broad, how to build a LinkedIn community for your personal brand business. If you want to talk, generally about on the platform, or we can go into the group angle. One thing I wanted to say, if I could, Michelle, and then I'll turn the floor back over to you. When you were talking about finding people whose values and things you align with, you remind me a little bit of my daughter, who's in 6th grade. So she's now starting to get to the point where, they don't play with everyone. They kind of like pick the friends they like to play with. And I'll sometimes say, well, why don't you play with her? Why don't you, go over her house? And she's like, I just don't vibe with her. She's a nice person. I just don't vibe with her. And I feel like, when we're adults, I mean, I feel the same way. I vibe with you. Like when I get on with you, it just feels like we're old. We'd never met, but I feel like we're old friends.
Absolutely.
We have great banter back and forth. So is that kind of what it's values, but it's also a little bit personality driven, would you say?
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, we'll start outward and come inward. So
Sure.
the LinkedIn community as a whole, there's some people who say, well, you don't have a community if you just have connections. And no, think about like your neighborhood community, the people you go and talk to in real life. Like those are the people in your community, right?
Yep.
So the people that you see who come to the watering hole of your post and you go to theirs every day, those are people, call them your neighborhood, whatever you want to call it. Those are the people you associate with, you like, their friends, their connections, collaborators. And so I believe the best way out of a sea of almost 1 billion on this platform, we need to raise our hand and say, hey, I'm Michelle. This is what I'm about. Share some personal, professional, just like you do, for example. I'm a big example. Brenda, you're always sharing your cute dog. What's his name? He's adorable.
Pepper. It's a she, but yeah, Pepper.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Pepper.
That's okay. Yeah, that's totally fine.
And then you in the snow, and I'm like, no, I would never be in snow. Anyway, so
because you're in Florida and I'm in Michigan, right?
I'm
do
cold
you ever
at
see
60.
snow?
No, never. I mean, maybe in a rare moon, but I was like, anyway, so I just like feel like, just like you said, we could be friends, all this where. So just getting to know people, talking about yourself in a mix of professional, as I call it, professional, a mix of professional and personable.
I like that.
So so that's my word. I'm a big word coiner. So anyway, so that's how you just kind of get to know people, get comfortable on the platform, and just start forming friendships, connections, building relationship and networks. That's who I call my community. Now it can expand as maybe your brand changes or your interest, but at the intersection, you're always going to have that core, right? The
Yeah.
core people I consider, like you and Michelle Raymond, of course, are just
Yeah.
like my tight core. And there's others
Jeff
too.
Young, I see Jeff watching.
Hey,
And
Jeff.
can I ask a question too? Because we're trying to help people who are self-employed, coaches,
Mm-hmm.
consultants, speakers, and authors who might be coming onto LinkedIn because they need income. They need to build their business.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're like, well, how do I generate leads? How do I find clients? And I feel like sometimes, Michelle, we some people might go a little bit too fast, too soon with the relationship building
Yeah.
and miss out on relationship building because they're looking for the sale. It's kind of like going for the jugular. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. If that's all you can see is, dollar signs in people's eyes, that they're going to sense that too. So, that's why I say start now. You got to start now. This is not a one and done. You have to start and keep building. So, just start. If you're just getting on the platform, start that way. Just getting to know people in the comments and the posting, stuff like that. Now, when you really want to keep growing that network, and it evolves, you have to give to get here, right? LinkedIn is the law of reciprocity, right? So that's one of the things when you're giving, 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 and being of service, people sense that. They trust you. That's the number one thing online, the trust, the commonality, the relatability, and ultimately the trust. So those are all very strong community aspects. But that is something anyone can do, right? Have a
Right.
community in the broader sense on LinkedIn. And I absolutely call it a community. There's no better way for me. And now some people like to split hairs and say, well, no, a community is okay, that's your loose community. The tight
Right. The
community,
Webster
yeah.
dictionary of community is,
Exactly. Oh, I love keyboard friendships. Love that, Lori. I absolutely think that's so brilliant. Now, here's how you really want to take it up a notch to really kind of build your brand, personal brand business is what we're calling here. Because, Brenda, a lot of our audience is the same. I do work with speakers and consultants in and out of corporate and stuff. So experts, entrepreneurs, those are a lot of the same people I work with. Absolutely love brilliant people. Now, usually these brilliant people have some kind of, stand out. This is what I'm known for. This is what I do. And so it's an aura that like, oh, Michelle does personal branding, thought leadership branding. Brenda does LinkedIn training and corporate, all the stuff that you do. We kind of know. I mean, and that's what the ideal goal. But at the end of the day, what problem are you helping people transform to? What problem are you helping people overcome? That is exactly how. I'll give you a point. We're gonna do a case study on my LinkedIn community. Now, first
okay.
of all, the number one thing is I never call it a LinkedIn group. LinkedIn groups have the worst connotation. People like, that's where people go to
You're
just get
talking about
spam.
the actual group and the groups on LinkedIn,
Yeah. Now
right?
you
Okay.
don't have to have
You
one
don't
just on
call it a group.
LinkedIn. Yeah,
Yeah.
I call it a
Okay.
community. I've done
Okay.
from the thing because a community is a warmer, friendly feel. Just like I don't call I just call people my community. I don't call them my list. I don't like to label people as just
Yeah,
generic
like
things.
get on my email list, or are you
Yeah.
getting my email newsletter? Like I'll be honest with you, Michelle, nobody wants to read an email newsletter. No offense to
No.
anybody, but nobody wants to read your email newsletter. Now do people want to get tips on speaking and coaching and LinkedIn? Sure. So
Yes.
get on my VIP email so you get my LinkedIn tips. It's like similar to what you're talking about. Don't join my
Absolutely.
group, join my community, right?
Absolutely. It's all how you brand things, right? It's
Yeah.
experience. Every little touch point is a brand experience. So I'll tell you what happened. So January, all of 2020, I was on the side. I had left my job, after
Hmm.
5.5 years, landed in consultancy. I started it, COVID hit and everything. And then I was sitting on the sidelines for 9 months on LinkedIn, connecting and, maybe commenting here and there, but on the sidelines going, I really need to get in here. I just know it, whatever. So for 9 months, I sat on the sidelines. I wrote about it in the LinkedIn branding book. Finally get to meet Michelle Raymond in 2020. And you probably have it. It's right
I'm looking
here.
for it. Keep talking.
I
Keep
have it
talking.
up if you want it. I have it up for us. Anyway, so here it is. It's the whole story's in the book. Yay. Yay. So the whole story's in the book. So I knew it. So I'm an all or nothing person. So I said, all right, that's it. I took 9 months to do it. I'm going to post every single day in 2021, right? So
Awesome.
call
Yeah.
me nuts. Anyway, so On January 1st, 2021, I emailed a friend or reached out to a friend, and he's like, sure, I'll do it with you. Now, I never asked anyone to do it or told him to. I just said, this is what I'm doing. It was like a build in public thing. Suddenly, all these people wanted to start joining. I posted about it, much like if you've ever seen the 1990 movies, Forrest Gump, where he decides to run across America. He just did it. He just ran out his driveway one
I
day.
just felt like running.
And all these people started doing it, and that's exactly what happened. So I formed a group. I'm like, oh, all these people want to do it. Let me form a community. So I formed a LinkedIn community, and it blew up. I mean, we had a couple hundred people in just like a month or so. So here's what it was. We all had a common premise. We all had a common goal, and that's exactly what I think you need to have for LinkedIn. A problem you're achieving together, a common goal, a cause, something that bonds and unites us, right?
Yeah.
And the more specific you can get, and the more of the transformation that you're telling them that we're doing this together, that is what breeds a strong community. And that's essentially what I started in 2021. We're now up to 1,500 people.
Wow.
And the only requirements I have that you have to have a face. You can't have a logo.
You can't have a logo, or what about an avatar?
Or
Like
no
you haven't
avatar,
updated?
and you
Okay,
can't be a company page. We're all personal brands growing our thing. So I have very tight. If you go to my 360, and I rebranded us last year called the 365 Creators. It was a 365 Challenge crew, but we all had a tight premise. So Brenda, that's what communities are. Either you're in your neighborhood community, you're all have a common cause, living next to each other, going to school,
Sure.
or supporting this. So that's the number one thing. Think of at the greater good. It's your North Star for your community. Why are we here? What are we trying to achieve? So
I love that.
that's the first thing that I would recommend that your wonderful listeners and viewers start with.
So let's say they're all like, wow, this is a great idea. I want to create a LinkedIn group, aka community, and I want to start to grow it with people who could potentially be clients, prospects, could be referral partner. I'm a part of your community, I mean, and that's an example. It doesn't always have to be people that are on there. And there's different types of, and I'm using the groups term now as we're talking about this, but there's different types of groups on LinkedIn where you can be invited to it. It's public, it's private, unlisted, What are your thoughts there on kind of the nuts and bolts of getting that group community up and running on LinkedIn?
Okay, well, so mine is, I know I've been several other groups too. Mine is a free group, but I do, it's not automatic, entry. I have to pre-approve people.
Okay.
And an unlisted group is good if you have like a real offsite. Maybe you have a coach or consultant as part of your course or something. You could have an unlisted group so no one knows about it except for a secret link. Those are very strong. But if you're trying to just grow a public group, community. Let's call it community because I really
Let's call it a community. Yeah.
You know what LinkedIn could do?
You pulled me over to this. I am like, okay, we're talking groups, but it's really
I'm not in LinkedIn. I don't work for LinkedIn, but if I work for them, I would rename
it, right?
The name.
Idea. LinkedIn, if you're listening, we got an idea for you.
We need to rebrand the groups. They have such a bad connotation. It's how companies have a really bad experience and they rebrand and so,
like Facebook and Meta and
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, or something bad up. Anyway, so if you're just trying to like do it as an entry to get to know people, make it community related, open, and also make sure that the search engines can find you. Okay. It wasn't until I started rebranding it as the 365 Creators and added a colon, your LinkedIn personal branding community did the invites start, at a higher rate because people are searching, right?
Yeah.
So that's really important to keyword search it, and then also have a really tight premise, who it's for, what it does, and what to expect, and also some really tight guidelines and things like that. When you're putting a bunch of people together, we all need rules and or guidelines rather. So. But anyway, that's the outside view. I have so much to talk about, but I'm going to let you ask the questions because what I could go on about this forever. So
I know. I love your enthusiasm. And I feel like every time we get on a call and we do like we're going, is it every month or every other month now with Michelle J.
No,
Raymond?
we're going monthly.
Monthly. I was like, I feel like we're going, because I feel like it's too long in between them, but we can just really go off in a million different directions. And you and I are both like, I think we get like shiny object syndrome. We both have a million ideas and it's like, no, we got to focus on the one or the two. We're never going to get the discussion. So if anyone's just watching and just starting to join the conversation here today, we're talking all about building your LinkedIn community to help to support your personal brand and business. And Michelle's already kind of convinced me to start calling my LinkedIn groups community instead of groups, because it's really what it is, centering it around a common cause. And I think what we're going to do, I've already seen some questions coming in, Michelle. So I'm going to start shifting gears and bringing in some of our audience questions. And by the way, if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and drop it in the comments right now. We're mainly seeing folks coming in from LinkedIn, but if you are watching this on YouTube, we'll see your comments. And if you're watching this in playback later, still leave your comments and questions, because Michelle will have the link and be able to come back to you a little bit later. So here is a couple of questions that have come in. This one, it says, LinkedIn user, I can't see who it is, probably because of the person's privacy settings or third-party settings, but they're asking you, Michelle, how do you see that LinkedIn networking is more effective than a local networking community club? I think they're talking about online networking on LinkedIn versus local networking. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, great questions. I'm sorry, I don't know who it is, but hopefully they'll fix that and we can see them in future events. So obviously it really depends on what kind of business model you have and who you're trying to impact. Now, if you're a local, mom and pop store and all your customers, you need those local customers, of course, local networking is going to be really important. I say a little bit of both, but LinkedIn lets you reach people all over the world, right? Spread your message, your brand, your awareness, all the things, and you can accomplish a lot more in a shorter amount of time, right? It's not physically exhausting and expensive. And so you're going to meet people and you can find them and target them and search for them. So that's why I think LinkedIn networking, and even local, I mean, you can certainly network locally on LinkedIn as well. So it allows you to reach at a larger scale is really the benefit. Yeah. But don't neglect in-person networking. I get you on that, because I get a vibe and energy like no other when I'm in person.
Yeah, there's something to be said with that. And it's like, now that a lot more in-person is returning, we can kind of, we meet in person and then we connect and we stay connected online. And even through the pandemic, a lot of us have been connecting online, and now we get the chance to meet in person. So we've got Jeff over to your side too. Jeff is now going to call the LinkedIn group community as well. He's like, a LinkedIn group community is only as good as the manager's commitment. That's why yours is great, Michelle. So tell us a little bit about your role as a manager and any tips you would have for somebody who's managing their community on LinkedIn.
That's a great question. Hey, Jeff, good to see you here. So so we talked about just, what are the background and what you should do to set up your community. But you're right. Once you get it set up, you want to invite people in and have them, come meet you. But what do you do, right? Okay, we're here. What do we do? A great question. So I like to say, I always call it, well, I'm in our group, our community. This is our community. I'm just the facilitator. Case in point, in 2021, when I was posting every day, I was so busy, right? And some days I wasn't as intentional in 2021 as I was last year and this year. And if you let the community just run wild, it'll be like a garden with running weeds. No one is there to tend it. So I learned that in 2021. Actually, I was going to shut that community down because I was over my challenge, and then people wanted to continue, so I rebranded. And so now I'm intentional. Every day, first of all, I do not let LinkedIn, right now, LinkedIn, when we do posts, it'll say, oh, great post on, let's see, engineering. Let's go put it in the branding community. That would be great, right? Like LinkedIn suggestions have
right. I mean, sometimes they're like, why would you have me put it there? It doesn't make sense. I mean, I get that they're trying to keep us active on the platform, but it's like, why would I put it there?
Exactly. Well, I had to turn that off because my community is not the community where you go and put your in the feed post. I am all for asking questions on anything for us to support you and along the topics. But anytime you put a post in the feed, it's not going to resonate. It's not what we're here for. So that's why I find it super engaging. But I also have theme days. Like Monday is member day. We even do like show and tells and stuff. Tuesday is LinkedIn tip. Wednesday is our Wednesday wins. This is where you put anything you're working on, your posts. I mean, we just celebrate you. It's Hype Yourself Day. Thursday, I usually have some kind of tool or tip or a shout out. And then a lot of times Friday, I don't even post that much because it is, people say, Michelle, is it time consuming? That's another question.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about that. For me, no, because
Hmm.
these posts I just crank out. I also have branded colors. Everything's branded. We have our logo, and so they know. And I
Hmm.
post it in there, and it takes me less time to post in the community than it to write and do stuff in the feed. But that's my DNA, connection, community, so it's not hard for me. But once you have a system and you have everything set up, like Mondays are this, Tuesday are this, people know what to expect, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
And so anyway, I'm always asking people to engage and connect, and so that's the thing, you've got to tend to your community like you would a garden.
Yes, I like that. That's a really great piece of advice. I'm going to stop for a quick technical, possibly adjustment. And I saw one comment coming in from Nancy saying, "Can Michelle please raise her microphone a little?" And I was kind of like,
Oh,
it does
of
sound a
course.
little bit quieter, but it wasn't bothering me. But then I saw another person, Michelle Carpenter, saying, "Can Michelle
Oh
raise her
no,
voice or increase her
Nancy,
mic?"
thank you.
And I don't, and you can hear the audio difference already. Can you not? If you're listening in, like,
Yes,
let us know in comments. But I was like, I was hearing it a little bit for me, but I was like, maybe it's just me. I was having some audio hiccups in the beginning, but I listened to my community, Michelle, even the online community. So it was like when one person said it, I'm like, maybe it's just the one. But then the second person, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go.
No, thank you for that. I didn't realize it was down. So
It sounds like it's amazing how little of an adjustment that was, but how much of an impact. And it's just turning the dial slightly. And
mm-hmm.
this is, I think, part of having a good community.
Yes,
You have
thank you.
people looking out for you.
Yes,
Because what they could have done is just be like in the chat, well, their sound is terrible, like talking
I'm
to
out of
each
here.
other.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
but instead they're like, hey, we want to help you. And that's, I think that's coming back to this whole topic of having a LinkedIn community, whether it
Mm-hmm.
is in your connections or within a group, aka community out there, having people that got your back. I've
Yes.
always heard, Michelle, that a good friend will tell you if you've got spinach on your teeth, they won't let you walk around all day. And that's what we just
Thank
had
you.
happening. Like, people are like, hey, get the audio mix.
I
All right.
appreciate that.
So we're going to change gears. Another question that came in, and I don't know that this necessarily has to do too much with the group slash community, but at a broader level, do you have any tips for creator mode? And maybe like talk to people like the general public. Do you think that the average person should have creator mode on their profile, Michelle? Any thoughts one way or another on that?
Well, I guess it depends on how new you are to LinkedIn and what
Mhm.
your connection or follower count is. I want to see you at least have 500 connections to get that 500 connection tag, because it used to be that you had the all, remember they took away the all-star profile. I love that
Yeah.
because that was our gauge to know we made it.
Yeah.
And so I would say, I'm not sure where you are in LinkedIn, but definitely have at least 500, even 1,000, and then you can switch it on, and then
Hmm.
people will start following you. But I've also seen, Brenda, a new feature where underneath have you seen those where they'll also still have the connect button on the desktop at least?
Yes, I started to
Yeah.
see it. Now, when you click on that, does it automatically connect, or do you still get the option to add a note?
I think you get the invite. I have not
Okay.
tried it, but I think
I
someone
haven't
told
tried
me.
it, and you and I are probably the same. I don't want to click on it and have the invite go out,
Yes.
so I don't want to test it on anyone important, and everyone is important to me,
Of
like,
course. So
right?
if you've seen that and you've done it, let us know in the comments so we can know, so we can
Yeah,
figure it out.
or test on one of us, because both of
Yes.
you and I, we both have creator mode turned on, and
Yes.
if someone visits our profile, they may see that. Do you want to? If you know them, go ahead and connect. You said your minimum threshold for turning on creator mode is like 500 or 1,000. I actually say 5,000, and
Yeah,
mine is,
I know we talked about this
yeah.
once, right?
And
Yeah.
and why I say that's a bit higher is I want to make sure that you have been around the block on LinkedIn. You understand how it works. You've been focused on growing your community, growing your connections. You understand how it works.
Mhm.
And 5,000 is a little bit arbitrary. It could be 7,000, it can be 2,500, but I want to make sure that you're not creating a hurdle for growth, because when you
Mhm.
turn on creator mode, you get the follow button instead of connect. You can still connect with people, but most people don't know how, so
Mhm.
they're just going to click on follow. So you as a user, as the person turning on creator mode, you have to look at your followers. So it's a
Mhm.
little bit of a hurdle, but I think you and I share the same philosophy. We want to kind
Mhm.
of understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are
Mhm.
some people I know who really have been around the block a while, but their count's really just 1,000 or 2,000, and so
Yeah.
they've been. So I guess I guess time is a great indication there.
Mhm.
Give yourself the proper time to get to know everything, as Brenda
Yeah.
says. But
All
definitely
right.
over 500 for
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's. I mean, we're both. It's the depth of knowledge of LinkedIn, how it works. Have you been around the
Yeah,
block?
exactly.
Kind of thing. All right. So we got another question from Gary. Hey, Gary, how are you? It says, how do you deal with people who are more transactional versus those that are relational and contribute to the community. So I'm going to assume here that Gary's talking about, you got people in your community on LinkedIn, in your group, in your community, who are more like pitching themselves, pitching their services versus contributing to conversations. Do you kick them out? Is that part of your group rules? Do you redirect them, or do you just kind of let it live? What do you think?
That's a great question, Gary. Thank you so much for that. Well, here's why I like to call mine a rule. I get comments, and I'm not just saying this. If you go to my website, michellebgriffin.com/the 365 creators, you'll see a lot of testimonials and screenshots from people in the community and how it's impacted them. And time and time again, people say this is one of the most engaging, because I don't allow that. First of all, I say no spamming, but the mere practice of not letting people post randomly cuts that off tremendously. Now, before I turned that off, if people would do that, I delete it. And even says, if you do this, I'm deleting it, because everyone's going to be like, I'm out of here in 2 seconds. I don't want exactly all that we've created together be lost by people spamming. Now, that's what Wednesday wins are for. You can put all that in. That's why people don't like groups. I check into some other groups just to see, and it's like, I'm out, because it's
really, because it looks spammy and a lot of
it's
salesy.
just spammy. And because think about it, like, for instance, I think I'm in a digital marketing group. They have hundreds of thousands of people. And that's another thing, guys. You don't have to grow massive numbers of community. The better, the smaller, the more tight knit, the better you get to know people. Right. So no spamming allowed, and people really appreciate that. And then people form connections and friendships together. I have coffee calls with some of my community members, and they're like, Michelle, you don't realize how much you brought amazing people together, and we're friends. We've made friends on ourselves, and that's why it's here, right? For everyone to grow.
Yeah. So I just put it up on screen for those that might be watching us on LinkedIn or YouTube or et cetera. You can go to michellebgriffin.com/the 365 creators. I'll make sure to put this in the show notes.
And they can go in my profile on LinkedIn and get the direct thing. But that's the thing. If you're, Brenda's audience coach, consultant, speaker, author, brand your community, your LinkedIn group as a community, put it on your website, make it your, call to action or whatever. So if you would go down on that thing, you'll see like all the.
Oh, let me pull it back up. Go ahead.
Yeah. You can scroll down. You can scroll down. You'll see that I have what we're about.
Okay.
And then I have the community guidelines there, and then you'll see what they're saying. So I just have a bunch of screenshots just to make just social proof. We need social proof. I love that. So I have a lot of that, and that's over, going on our 3rd year together.
That's wonderful. And you've even got some comments back to people on that as well.
And I think that's and that's how it works. So so that's how do you make your community have staying power. It has more legs in other places, right?
I love it. You've given me ideas, and I have a couple of groups/communities that I run on LinkedIn. You've given me, even like on this landing page, you've given me a really great idea. I've got like a VIP job seeker community, and we do have a group on LinkedIn with that. We have Friday VIP calls on Zooms. I love your comments, because it's kind of like creating that social proof before, like, people are like, should I join this or not? Is this like legit? And it's showing what people are saying about it. You're giving me some really great ideas on here.
Yeah, steal away.
All right. So I think, let me see if there's any other questions that are in here. We're talking about community building, relationship building, and I think this question is coming up a lot lately. So I'm going to bring it up on screen and see what your thoughts are. Hey, Joey, how are you? The question from Joey Himmelfarb is, Michelle, what do you think? Is LinkedIn replacing Facebook asking for a friend?
It seems to be, right? And I would love the Facebook groups, though, to be the features and everything to come to LinkedIn. Wouldn't that be, why would we ever need Facebook, right? But so I absolutely do. And I really feel like, Brenda, I don't work for LinkedIn again, but I keep seeing over the course of 2 or 3 years doing my community, all these little features and prompts that signaled to me if they were killing them or dying, they wouldn't have all these new little pop-ups and things. So our mutual friend Michelle J. Raymond has told me when she's talked to LinkedIn or other places, I guess the product team or something, they are aware that Facebook's groups are the thing, and
they're vibrant,
and they know that theirs aren't. So I'm hoping they're working on that. I'm not giving up hope.
I feel like there's so much, but I keep telling people, LinkedIn groups, aka communities, you get out of them what you put into them. So
Absolutely.
to your point, as a farmer, you got to tend farm, you got to make sure you're watering your garden, pulling the
Absolutely.
weeds, managing it, going into it every day. And I think to the point of Facebook versus LinkedIn, and when we think about, a lot of people have left Facebook and they've come over to LinkedIn and they're like,
Yeah.
wow, it's like Facebook, but people are nice and we don't
Yeah,
have all the
exactly.
drama and the politics and things like that.
Absolutely.
But then there's some things you miss out on that you don't get from LinkedIn. And I think one is groups don't get pushed out to you at the
Yeah.
same rate. On Facebook, they kind of are in your feed, they're in your face, you get the notifications. On LinkedIn, they're more like a destination. You got to remember to go there
Yes.
to get them. And related, we have another question coming in about communities on LinkedIn. I love this question. Is it better to have a more general, like a marketing community, or more niche real estate marketing community? And Jamie says, I can see more specific info available to them, but it could apply to a wide variety of people too. Michelle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, great question, Jamie. Like, thank that's really smart. I'm assuming you're in the real estate industry. My belief and my firsthand experience, the more niche you can get, the better, right? Marketing community is so broad, and you'll never attract the right people. You're here to help. And here's the thing, addressing clients, collaborators, referral partners, all those things have come to fruition for me as being the community, admin and founder. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if it's really even more niche in real estate, if there's a certain area of real estate, like commercial real estate marketing, I don't know, like some kind of, even you can go even nicher. Okay. I
Yeah.
don't think that you could undersell it, unless there were like 5 people in the world this would apply to or something. So
Right.
you can always expand out, but it's better to start small than expand out versus broad. You'll never get the traction going so broad. So
I love
I
that.
think that's a great idea for you, Jamie. And thank you for that question.
Great advice. And I'm going to end with this one. And Lori Jo has, says, I know she just wrote a book, Work Mom Says, as well. And congrats to you, Lori Jo, on that new book. But she has hashtag Work Mom Says. She has like a hashtag that she uses when she's
Yeah.
giving advice. For example, connected positive relationships are the key to success in business.
Yes,
What are your
absolutely.
thoughts on hashtags related to groups? Does it help? Is it more for branding purposes? Does it help with search results or SEO? Do you have any thoughts there, Michelle?
Well, first of all, hi, Lori, and congratulations on the book. I'm definitely going to check that out. That's exciting. I think if that's like your branded hashtag that you've got cross platform with the book, I say I'm a firm believer with clients. Look, whatever platform or term, cross platform it. So I could see you doing a community hashtag work mom says, and then maybe even have a colon and saying the community for XYZ. So we know we
Mm-hmm.
self identify. So I would say keep that in there. And then just like on a podcast, Brenda, you're going to be launching this podcast soon. And, one of my advices is has the keyword search terms. So if your title is what is enthusiastically self-employed
There you
podcast
go.
the podcast for XYZ, so we know, oh, that's for me,
Mm,
this is
yeah.
the place for me. So that's what I would do, Lori Joe. Keep that work mom says. That's a wonderful branded hashtag that you want to keep promoting. And I hope you do it. That's a great idea.
Awesome. All right. Well, Michelle, our time together is starting to wind down right now. And I wanted to pull up your LinkedIn profile first. And for those that are watching the video, whether it's on LinkedIn or YouTube, they can visit your profile and I'm trying to find when you're piloting and co-piloting, sometimes
It's
it's like hard
Michelle
to
B.
find.
Griffin. Michelle B. Griffin. The B stands for
There
brand.
you go. The V stands for brand. Now, when we visit your profile, now I'm already connected to you, so I'm not going to see the follow button. But when
Mm-hmm.
we visit your profile, for some people that are not yet connected to you, we're going to see follow. So, can you remind them, how do they connect with you if they want to connect with you?
Absolutely. I would love to connect with you, but I would love if you could tell me you saw me here, because it's always awesome to know that, we caught it live on the replay, and because Brenda puts out some great stuff. So just tell me, I'm connecting on Brenda's show today about community, and I would love to meet you. So I'm a big connector. I just think it's context of how we meet people is just always helpful, so we can start conversations, right? That's what we do on LinkedIn. Start conversations.
Awesome. And I'm going to pull up your website too as
Mm-hmm.
I ask you this
Michelle B.
next
Griffin.
question.
Yep.
I love how it's so consistent too. So let's say there's someone that's watching this show and they're like, oh, I really want to work with Michelle. So
Mm-hmm.
can you remind us, what are the products, services, offerings that you have, and how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more about working with you?
Absolutely. And also, too, please join the community, the 365 creators. You can find that in my profile or on the website. So, what I do is a mixture of things because remember, my end goal is to help and elevate hidden high achievers, and those could be in corporate, on the consulting side, entrepreneur side. So, I do some strategy work with you, strategy consulting, high level strategy consulting, and I do workshops for individuals and teams. And then I have books, the LinkedIn branding book that we co-authored together with Michelle J. Raymond. And my second one will be out in July, pre-sale, called Position Yourself, How to Stand Out as an Expert in Your Field. And also speaking. I do speaking where I again help people on certain topics. So the best thing to do is just go to my website and check out my current services. And I have resources, free links to things, and lots of online training. So just go Netflix my site and check out what's the most relevant for you.
I love it. Netflix my site, like binge through I mean, I sometimes have people say, I've been stalking you online. And I'm like, no, you're not stalking. Stalking would be like going through my trash without my permission. Like
Yes.
researching me.
That's why it's
is
there.
fine. Like I love when you say Netflix because right away I'm like, yep, I get what you're saying. Like go through everything. You've got a lot
Yes.
of free resources and tools on there. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on there myself today here. So, Michelle, as we wrap up our conversation today, we were talking about how to build a LinkedIn community for your personal brand and business. Any final comments for us?
I would say building a brand community, as they call it, there's a lot of research on that and books out there, is one of the best things you can do personally. You're going to meet people that are just going to prop you up professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, you're going to help these people. So you're going to bond with some of the people that are going to end up being probably your best friends, your collaborators. And it's just bringing and helping people. And what better way to build your personal and professional life and your work, and even create a legacy sometimes with these. So just remember, it's the ripple effect. When you bring people together, when you connect them and help them, they're able to expand and help others through that impact. So absolutely one of the best things. And here's the thing, we need more connection and less information in today's world. So communities are the way to build that.
Great. Well, on that note, thank you so much, Michelle. I always enjoy our time together. I always
Thank you.
pick up new insights that are going to help me. And I know that others may be watching that are feeling the same way, like, wow, I walked away with some great gems and things I'm going to implement. So I want to direct this next to comment to our audience, our listening audience or viewing audience. Did you enjoy the video? If you did, first of all, tell us before you leave, because Michelle and I don't get performance reviews anymore. So we live on your comments for feedback.
Yes, good point.
But also, you can, if you have not yet shared on LinkedIn this week, this month, or this year, go ahead and click on the video. As soon as it's done playing, you're going to see a little share button at the bottom. Click on share and you can share it out as a LinkedIn post and maybe tell people something that you learned from watching or why they should watch the conversation. Tag Michelle and I in there. Remember to tag, you use the @ and just start typing our names. And then we'll get a notification that you've talked about us. We'll thank you back. So that'll kind of help jumpstart the algorithm in the conversation there. With all of that said, Michelle, it's been a delight. I think you and I are going to be meeting again. We're meeting monthly now with Michelle.
Yes, thank you. So the LinkedIn
Raymond,
trifecta
right?
talks. Yes, there's a shout out. First, thank you to have me. I could, we could talk forever. So it's been a blast. The LinkedIn Trifecta Talks is our new monthly series with our colleague Michelle J. Raymond, and so look for that monthly now. We're here to help with that too.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Michelle. I'm going to be talking to you again very soon. And for those of us those of you who've been watching today, I want to say thank you for making this a part of your morning. We hope that you're walking away with some great insights. Yes. And please stay on the video for just a second. I've got a free resource I'm going to show you. It's my 15 LinkedIn profile tips for coaches and consultants. I'll have a QR code coming up on screen. You can grab and download that. And with that said, we will see all of you on LinkedIn. Stay safe and stay healthy. And we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Bye,
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.